welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the secrets of one of history's most dominant military forces. We're going to look at the incredible Roman siege engines. These were the machines that didn't just break down walls, they literally broke entire empires. You know, for most of ancient history, this was the ultimate military puzzle. If you had a well-built stone wall, that was pretty much the perfect defense. A fortified city could hold out against an army for months, sometimes even for years. Often they'd outlast the army trying to besiege them. But the Romans, they cracked the code. And their solution wasn't just one brilliant invention. No, it was a complete system. They brought together ruthless engineering, organization on an almost industrial scale, and, maybe most importantly, a deep understanding of psychological warfare. It created a siege machine that was just about unstoppable. Okay, so let's try to put ourselves in the sandals of an ancient general for a second. You're out on the battlefield, and you're staring up at a city with these massive, towering stone walls. What are your options, really? Well, they weren't great, that's for sure. You could try to starve them out, but that could take years, and hey, your own army has to eat too. A direct frontal assault? That was a total bloodbath. You'd have defenders raining down arrows and rocks from the safety of the walls. It was just a brutal, inefficient, and incredibly expensive way to fight a war. The Romans knew that to win this game, they couldn't just throw more men at the problem. They needed better tools. And this is where the Romans showed their real genius for adaptation. See, they didn't have to invent everything from the ground up. Instead, they looked over at the Hellenistic Greeks, who had already come up with some seriously sophisticated artillery. The secret sauce to all of this was a principle called torsion. So imagine you take a big bundle of ropes, and you just twist it tighter and tighter and tighter. That bundle is storing a truly incredible amount of potential energy. Now, what happens when you let it go? You get this violent, powerful snap. The Romans figured out how to harness that force, using bundles of animal sinew as these huge twisted springs that powered their war machines. And this technology basically gave them two main weapons. On one hand, you had the ballista. Think of it like a giant, hyper-precise crossbow. It was the surgeon's scalpel of the battlefield, perfect for picking off defenders on the wall or hitting a specific weak point. And then, on the other hand, you had the onager. And that was just pure, raw, brute force. A sledgehammer designed to hurl massive stones and just smash fortifications into dust. But here's the thing. Having a powerful weapon is one thing, but being able to build, maintain, and deploy hundreds of them anywhere in the known world, that's something else entirely. And this is where the Roman genius really, really shines. It was never just about the machine. It was always about the system. They literally professionalized siege warfare. They created an entire engineering corps right inside the legions. So at the very top, you had the Prefectus Fabrum. He was basically the chief engineer running the whole show. Under him, you had architects and specialists, the liberatores, who handled all the complex math needed to build and aim these things. And then on the ground, you had the ballistori. These were the dedicated, trained crews who operated these weapons day in and day out. This whole system turned siegecraft from a guessing game into a repeatable, deadly science. And think about what that organization gets you. Every single Roman legion was a self-contained siege unit. They didn't show up to a city and hope to find the right wood or some local experts. No, they brought their entire arsenal with them, ready to be assembled. This gave any Roman commander a truly devastating amount of firepower on demand. Okay, so these machines sound pretty unstoppable, right? Well, not exactly. They were pushing the absolute limits of what ancient materials could do, and that created some huge, huge challenges. The very heart of the machine, that twisted animal sinew, was also its biggest weakness. If it rained or if it was just a really humid day, the ropes could slacken and lose all their tension, which made the weapon pretty much useless. And the forces involved were just staggering. An onager had a recoil so violent, you couldn't even put it on a stone wall without the risk of shaking the wall itself apart. And under all that constant, immense stress, sometimes the machines would just fail catastrophically. And this isn't just some theory. When a modern team tried to build an onager based on the historical texts, the massive wooden frame completely shattered from its own recoil after just 2 shots. It's a perfect example of just how difficult and dangerous these things were to build and operate. So what did the Romans do? They innovated. It's what they did best. As practical engineers, they came up with this brilliant fix for the moisture problem. They developed these bronze casings that would completely enclose the sinew bundles, protecting them from rain, humidity, you name it. It was a simple, elegant solution that made their artillery way more reliable, no matter the weather. And this engineering mindset, this focus on what works, also shaped how their weapons changed over time. As the Roman Empire's borders grew and its military challenges changed, their whole philosophy on siege warfare started to shift too. You can see a really fascinating trend on this timeline. Early on, it was all about that complex, super precise ballista. But look what happens by around 350 AD. The army has almost completely switched over to the onager, that simpler, brute force stone thrower. So why the change? Well, it all came down to classic Roman pragmatism. Yeah, the onager was less accurate, for sure, but it was tougher, it was cheaper to build, and it was way easier to maintain in the field. When you have to equip dozens of legions spread across thousands of miles of frontier, robust simplicity wins over delicate complexity every single time. But you know, if we only talk about the mechanics and the materials and the engineering, we're missing what might just be the most important part of Roman siegecraft. They weren't just trying to break down stone walls. They were trying to break the will of the people on the other side. I mean, just imagine you're inside a city under siege. It's not one rock hitting the wall every so often. It is a relentless, 24-hour bombardment. The thunderous crash of stones, the sound of wood splintering, the chaos. This wasn't just a physical assault. It was a carefully orchestrated campaign of terror. And it was designed to convince you that fighting back was completely hopeless. There's this incredible story from the Battle of Adrianopolis that just shows the sheer power of this fear. A historian wrote that a single stone from an onager landed right in the middle of the Gothic army. Now, it didn't actually kill anyone, but the shock and terror of it was enough to cause a mass panic and send them fleeing. The fear of the weapon was actually more powerful than the weapon itself. And that, really, is the ultimate takeaway here. The Romans mastered the engineering of torsion, and they mastered the logistics of warfare, but their true genius was in the engineering of fear. They understood that the most important wall to break down wasn't the one made of stone, it was the one inside the human mind. Thanks for joining me.